If there's one thing aircraft carriers were known for during the Second World War, it was their role in changing the face of aerial combat. Whereas aircraft were previously limited to flying close to land, the massive vessels served as floating runways, allowing them to take off and land virtually anywhere in the world. While the majority of aircraft carriers sailed the world's oceans during the conflict, two were stationed in the Great Lakes: the USS Wolverine, 9-64, and Sable, 9-81. The concept of acquiring civilian vessels and refitting them for training purposes came from Commander Richard F. Whitehead, an aviation aide at the Great Lakes Training Center at Glenview Naval Air Station, Chicago. He felt it could be an effective way of training pilots for combat, as the Great Lakes were a protected environment, far away from the dangers of enemy combatants. While military officials initially shrugged off the idea, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor quickly changed everyone's minds. The U.S. Navy had a limited amount of aircraft carriers at its disposal, and all were needed on the front, so Admiral Ernest J. King ordered that Whitehead's proposal be fast-tracked. USS Wolverine, 9-64. Launched in November 1912 as the Scene B, the USS Wolverine was a luxury side-wheel paddle steamer that operated in the Great Lakes region. Capable of carrying up to 6,000 passengers and 1,500 tons of cargo, her typical route saw her travel between Cleveland, Ohio and Buffalo, New York. In 1942, Scene B was acquired by the U.S. Navy, with the intention of transforming her into an aircraft carrier. She was of particular interest to the service because her side-wheel paddles offered improved stability and maneuverability. To turn the steamer into an aircraft carrier, a 550-foot-long wooden flight deck, superstructure and arresting cables were installed. Subsequently renamed Wolverine, the vessel, on the outside, looked like a miniature aircraft carrier. However, she was missing a number of key features that would have made her comparable to her larger, ocean-worthy counterparts. She wasn't equipped with armaments, nor coated in armor, and was missing elevators and a hangar deck. As well, her flight deck was lower to the water. USS Sable, 9-81. Launched in October 1924 as the Greater Buffalo, the USS Sable began life as a side-wheel excursion steamboat. Everything about her oozed luxury, with her Renaissance design affording her the nickname Majestic of the Great Lakes. While operating in the Great Lakes in this capacity, she could hold over 1,500 passengers, 103 vehicles and around 1,000 tons of cargo. Upon being acquired by the U.S. Navy, Greater Buffalo had her cabins and superstructure removed. Steel supports were added, and unlike Wolverine, she received a steel flight deck. While the vessel was initially meant to have a wooden one installed, the decision was ultimately made to go with metal, so the military could test non-skid coatings. Just like her sister ship, she was renamed Sable, and wasn't equipped with armaments, armor, elevators or a hangar deck. An interesting fact about Sable during this time is that a large number of her crew members were survivors of the USS Lexington, CV-2, which had been lost during the Battle of the Coral Sea, training pilots in the Great Lakes. By 1943, both the USS Wolverine and Sable, nicknamed the Corn Belt Fleet, were stationed out of Navy Pier, in Chicago. They were assigned to the 9th Naval District Carrier Qualification Training Unit, CQTU, and operated throughout Lake Michigan. Trainees were taught how to take off and land on aircraft carriers, with the idea being that, if they could successfully accomplish their tasks on the shorter flight decks, then the larger ones wouldn't be an issue. While conducting their training, the pilots were made to keep their cockpits open in the event of a crash, and to graduate, they had to carry out 10, later 8, takeoffs and landings. Training occurred 7 days a week. However, it was often curtailed due to a lack of wind over the decks of the aircraft carriers. Over the course of the Second World War, Wolverine and Sable trained 17,820 pilots, including future U.S. President George H.W. Bush, and were the sites of 116,000 landings. Fewer than 300 aircraft were lost. On top of training aviators, Sable was also used to test the TDR-1, a wooden remote-controlled drone. Decommissioning of the USS Wolverine, 9-64, and Sable, 9-81. Following the end of World War II, both the USS Wolverine and Sable were decommissioned and struck from the Naval Vessel Register. Wolverine was put up for sale to the public, for either flag operations or scrapping, and wound up being sold for scrap in December 1947.